Yes.
So we still have three important topics to get through. We want to talk about the House Republicans narrowly passing Trump's big, beautiful bill that's going to leave millions of Americans without health care. And speaking of health care, you're probably not hearing as much from the CDC, and that's intentional. And people have kind of pulled away from talking about this, but we're not going to. We're going to discuss it. And then, did you know if you want to get a COVID shot this fall, you may be completely unable to do so. They've changed the guidelines, the FDA, and they're really going to be restricting access. It's all political theater. There's no basis for this in science for them to do this. This vaccine is safe and has saved millions of lives. So we're going to be talking about that as well. We're going to get through all of this. Okay, I feel confident. Desmond, have you
Yes.
heard about what's happened in the House in the middle of the night just the other night and what these people did?
Right. So I feel like, mostly everyone who's been following the news is going to be very familiar with this because it's the number one topic of conversation right now. Trump's
Yeah.
bill that I want to say right off the top, I refuse to call it what everyone else is calling it. And I'm so upset with everyone continuing to call it what he is calling it. That's a whole different conversation. I'll get to that later. But I want to talk about the details of what's in this bill because the details
Absolutely.
are what make this bill as insidious as it actually is, right?
And it's over 1,000 pages, by the way, of insidiousness.
Right.
Yeah,
Obviously written by these members of Congress, not by the lobbyists who sent it to them, obviously.
of course.
So, obviously.
No, because these
So,
guys all know how to read and write. So, yeah.
$267 billion cut to SNAP benefits. People who are on SNAP benefits. I've been on SNAP benefits before.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be very close to the poverty line, if not very much below it. You are getting small amounts of food basically every month in order to survive because you can't afford groceries for yourself. So that's
Yeah.
kind of people who are getting SNAP benefits in the first place. I have needed them to survive at certain points, so have other members of my family. Medicaid, $700 billion cut to Medicaid over the next 10 years. Again, who's on Medicaid? People who cannot afford health insurance. Legally speaking, when you go into the marketplace to get health insurance, you have to be making a certain amount per year to even qualify for Medicaid. So you are not making that much money. That is your health care. They want to take that away. Medicare itself, $500 billion cut over the next
My
10
God.
years. Who is on Medicare? The oldest amongst us who are either retiring or approaching retirement, people who are at the end of their lives, right? Our
Mm-hmm.
grandparents, some of our parents. We should be investing in these programs. Republicans want to divest in them to present more tax breaks to the richest people in human history. The billionaire class will be people who will be the recipients of these tax breaks. Natalie, there are more things in this bill, and I'm going to get to them. So I'm not like just rattling off a giant list here in the beginning, but
Sure.
these are the first three things that we focus on when it comes to this disgusting bill. This reverse Robin Hood, like let's steal from the poor, give to the rich. Just focusing on the main three right here. What are your reactions as we've kind of gone through the news cycle with this for the last like few weeks, few months, even talking about
Yeah.
Trump's monstrosity here?
Yeah, I actually cried when I saw this, that it actually passed the House by one
One vote.
vote. I actually cried because I care about people and I want my tax dollars to feed people and give people health care. And I am astounded that other people don't feel that way. I guess my question for people that support this is, what do you want your taxes to pay for? Like, I'm confused because I remember this one professor of mine in college said taxes are your democracy dues. And I always thought that was kind of an interesting way of looking at taxes. And I liked that philosophical framing of it, where it's like, I pay into this collective thing because this is the kind of free society that I want to live in. Because when I think of what freedom is, I think of not just the freedom to do things, which I think a lot of people frame it in their minds that way, but I like to think of freedom as in freedom from. And
Yeah.
don't we all want to be free from disease? Don't we all want to be free from poverty? Don't we all want to be free from fear that we can't pursue our happiness, our liberties, because all we can do is just stay alive. I worked in my previous life. I went to school, and my undergrad was, I majored in biology and philosophy, and I got into medical school. So I did a lot in volunteering at hospitals. I see who comes in that's on Medicare and needing of assistance. I worked in shelters when I got my master's in social work. I saw who was staying that needed SNAP and needed access to Medicaid.
Yeah.
My God, it could be any of us. There is no one face of these products, right? Like any one of us could be in a position where we might need resources. And in the most wealthy, the wealthiest nation in the world, the fact that we are denying people the basic tenets of living, right? Things that are not even discussed for debate in other nations. But the fact that we are denying people the ability to feed themselves and their children and to take care of their own health, when we have like the worst outcomes, we spend the most per capita of any developed or resourced nation, however we want to call it these days. And we have the worst health outcomes. Our life expectancy is dropping. And this is how we're going to make America healthy again? Like, no. I philosophically denounce everything about this. And I believe that healthcare is a human right. And I believe that we all should be able to access healthcare however and whenever our doctors and us see fit. And the government should not be telling me that I can't get healthcare because I don't make the right amount of money. To me, that is practicing medicine without a license. And that's my issue with for-profit insurance companies as well. So this made me cry.
It is terrifying. When I
Mm-hmm.
am out in the community here where I live at in Montana, there are so many people who I know in my everyday life who either currently or at some point had to rely on SNAP or Medicaid. There
Mm-hmm.
are people who are basically just struggling, trying to get through life, working to their best of their abilities, and sometimes you just fall on hard times. You
Yeah.
know, when you are living in a town, such as the town that we live in right now, where housing prices have damn near tripled in the last 5 years and wages have barely gone up at all,
Yeah.
right? And price of food has gone up. You have landlords who are able to raise your rent whenever they see fit to however much they see fit, right?
That's
You're
right.
trying to do your best to get roommates to survive. Maybe you're still dealing with student loan debt, every single day. Everything around you is getting more expensive and you're being squeezed and squeezed and squeezed. And sometimes you find yourself maybe developing, a substance abuse problem. Maybe sometimes you find yourself developing an addiction here or there.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really easy to see how these domino effects can come in, right?
Yeah.
Where the stresses of life kind of compound and compound, and then you find yourself, maybe needing some extra help, maybe needing the help of SNAP benefits, needing the help of Medicaid. And we are trying to take those services away from people, the people who are
Yeah.
struggling the most to survive. And the Republicans are painting this as trying to go after waste, fraud, and abuse. But
Yeah.
when you paint it with that umbrella, you're basically saying that whatever cut you make is falling underneath that umbrella without proving it whatsoever. When I see a lot of right wing trolls talk about this online, they're like, oh, they're taking the benefits away from the illegal aliens or the people who just won't get off the couch and work. It's like that's what they're going after right now. Like, look how pervasive and how easy it is for the right wing to get their talking points out there and prove none of it.
Oh,
They just
100%.
say that stuff into the ether over and over and over again. And they have the tens of millions of people in this country just lapping up this billionaire propaganda,
Yeah.
convincing so many people that who they're attacking is people that they don't like.
That's
And
right.
they'll find out, I guess, not too long from now, that it's actually their friends, their families, people that they thought they wouldn't come after. They're going to be the ones being impacted by this as well. So I'm just grossed out on so many different levels here. And I really hope beyond hope that somehow, some way, this can get tripped up in the Senate. We
Yeah.
don't ever want to rely on politicians, but holy shit, do we need somebody to step up right about now?
Um, I agree. And I always say we cannot fall into despair. And something that I did yesterday, and I was looking up the Senate number here, you can call your senators right now, and they will patch you through. And the number is 202-224-3121. I called yesterday and I left voice messages for both of my senators, Senator John Fetterman and Senator Dave McCormick. And I explicitly said, this is basically a bill that is going to strip millions of Americans of their health care. It is a death sentence. Do you want that blood on your hands? And
Yeah.
that was what I left. And that was pretty much it. You don't have to leave this long belabored message. I know a lot of people feel anxiety around that, but they're going to feel the pressure if we put it on them. So once again, that number is 202-224-3121. We need to be blowing up phone lines. That's the first thing we can do. Desmond, I get really tired when I hear the waste and fraud bullshit, because we know the largest theft that has happened here in the United States is wage theft. And it's from the billionaire class stealing our money, right? Walmart has more people that work for them on welfare than any corporation, right? They pay them pennies on the dollar so that they're forced to access these public care programs. So Walmart's a huge welfare beneficiary, right? It's corporate welfare. And here's how I feel about when people say, oh, it's waste and fraud, they're going after that. I actually don't care that much if somebody is like trying to get one over on SNAP and gets food stamps. Like, if that's your scam, okay.
Your
If
scam
that's
was you needed food, you needed health care.
right,
Wow.
like,
You're a terrible
okay,
human being.
that's a wild scam. Like,
Yeah.
so you're telling me maybe that one person out of 100,000, because we know when you actually look at fraud for Medicare and for these programs, it's actually a very, very small percentage that they have found. So none of that is even true. But my thinking is, okay, so one person gets food stamps, but then all these other people, including children who need the system and are accessing it faithfully and legally and with good intent, they also get it. Cool. Like, I'm cool with that. Like, I just have no reservations around the reality, having worked with so many incredible people in so many different spaces and having learned about so many people's lives. Most people, most people, almost all the people, right, are just trying to make ends meet and protect themselves and their children in any way that they can. And I don't think it's an easy thing for people to ask for help. And the idea that we want to shame people further, especially when there is so much systemic violence through a lack of a living wage and through a lack of affordable housing, there's so many things that we know impact physical and mental health, and we're choosing to do this. To me, it's like cruelty is just the point. And so I ask again, if the Democrats won't literally fight for us, then they are not a party I need to be supporting. Like, I know who the Republicans are, but I just want to know who are the Democrats at this point, because we need a working people's party and we need one now. This can't stand. Like, I am horrified by this. And then I think to myself,
We could use a
weird,
25-hour speech right about now, Natalie.
we definitely could. We
We
definitely
could.
could. And I think to myself, and I've been trying to play this game to avoid despair, mental depression, is what's on the other side of this? Like, when we all come out of this at some point, maybe it's 5 years from now, maybe it's 10 years from now, and we're picking up the pieces of this scattered nation that are left in the dust and that are left behind. What are we going to rebuild? Because for me, we have to decide what kind of world we're going to want after this. And I know that seems like a very ephemeral thing to say, but I think we have to be in a dream space right now, because the reality is the people running things are actively killing us, and we are in a war. And I don't think people are ready to say it, but I'll say it. We're in a war.
We had someone in the comments ask just a bit ago, do either of you know how to start a town hall meeting? Um, well, I'm not
On
sure if
here?
there's, I'm not really sure, but I'm imagining in the town that this person lives in. But I don't know how official it needs to be, but if you want to just rent out a space in your community or go to some free space and just hope that people will attend and talk about what's going on in your community or what's happening around the nation. I mean, I think anyone should do that that wants to do that. And I think there's plenty of ways to get started on that. You could probably go on social media, organize an event, invite a bunch of people to come out there. Um, yeah, I think that those are really good things for people to be doing. I mean, I see that we do things like that here in Missoula, where I live at quite a bit. People will hold events and kind of call attention to different things going on around here in the community. So I think it's always a great thing when people do that.
Yeah, I agree. And, you could also start by going on to Facebook and looking at your local community, like your council. A lot of times they have Facebook group pages, or your local mayor. There might be like a page, and you could even connect with your local council and see, is there any plan for a town hall? And the only reason I suggest that is because they're already plugged in to probably a lot of constituents. And
Yeah.
that might be a good like jumping off point to see if they would be willing or able. And if not, then to your point, Desmond, you don't have to ask permission, but it might be
No.
beneficial to see if you can have any of just your local community leaders want to be involved with the organization and the support of it. The problem we're having here in Pennsylvania is both our senators are really refusing to do that. They're refusing to meet with people and have town halls for various reasons. And so I think for us, what we've been doing is we've been protesting outside Dave McCormick's office. We've been protesting outside Fetterman's, and I'm saying we collectively. I've covered these protests, and
Yeah.
people go. They go every week to McCormick's hub. I think it's like Monday McCormick protests or something they're called. And so there's a lot of that stuff because this person, Abstract J, is he said, I'm trying to get a hold or getting the attentions. Go to one of those rallies. Find out, Tracy Batten, Baton. She's on social media, on Insta and on Facebook, and she helps organize them. So go on to Tracy Batten's, Facebook page and see what she's doing. She's an excellent community leader and an excellent activist, and someone I really admire. She's a social worker and has been in the game a long time. She's incredible. So there's a lot of people doing things. So make sure you're plugging into them. I also
Yeah.
just want to go ahead.
I wanted to touch on the other things that are in this bill before we move to the
Yes.
next topic.
Yes.
Um, so there's also, as you alluded to earlier, there's the no tax on gun silencers. There's also no money planned for Planned Parenthood. Um, an additional $150 billion a year for the imperialism budget for the Defense Department and national security. There is, they want to put a tax on university endowments, an overhaul of the student loans program, more drilling and mining on public lands. This legislation would also provide $46.5 billion to revive the construction of Trump's border wall, as well
Because that went
as
so well the first time.
$4 billion to hire an additional 3,000 border agents, and there is funds for an additional 10,000 ICE agents and ICE investigators. So there is a lot of different things in this bill besides just cutting food benefits and healthcare benefits away from the most vulnerable people in our society. There is also all of those things as well. I mean, each one of them is honestly worth its own video. And I
Oh,
think to some degree
100%.
we'll probably be coming back and talking about this topic more in detail as
Yeah.
time goes on because, yeah, whether it's talking about the failures of the border wall, talking about ICE agents, talking about taxing universities, taxes on
Yeah.
gun silencers, Planned Parenthood. I mean, these are all things worth their own individual discussion, and we will be doing that at some point down the road
Yeah.
here. But for the sake of today, I think I just want to like look at this as like a totality and just say that all of this is just heinous to me. Like truthfully speaking, you know, I don't know exactly where I want to pinpoint my frustrations the most, but I will say that I cannot find a single positive thing that I agree with here. You know,
No.
out of just pure transparency here, Natalie, I think there was like maybe once, maybe twice. I can think of like two times
Okay.
in the first Trump administration where I saw something that he did that I was like, hey, you know what? I actually don't think that was a bad thing. I haven't seen one of those things yet.
No.
Not one.
No. I
Not
mean,
one.
I knew that
Everything is not
I
only
knew
is it
this was
bad,
going to be
it's
bad.
horrendous.
No, I knew this was going to be bad. I mean, I knew it was. I knew if he got back in, this was going to be him with more money and power behind him more organized than ever before. And it's even worse than I knew it. I knew it was going to be bad, but this is even worse than I thought. I will just say this, and I know we'll talk about Planned Parenthood. I sit on the board of Planned Parenthood of Western Pennsylvania. I'm the development
Mm.
chair. Um, Beyond abortion, because that seems to be like the only thing that people
That
think
they
of Planned
fixate on.
Parenthood. Yeah,
Yeah.
there are so many things that Planned Parenthood does for community health, including mammograms.
Mm.
There's so many things. Like I know so many women that literally have said, without Planned Parenthood, I would have died. Um, and so there's just a lot to unpack. And like you said, we'll get into it, but I just want to hit home once again the level of misinformation that is out there. And in particular, the way we set up villains. And
Yeah.
I always try to tell people when somebody tells you to hate something or someone, just remember what my old Italian grandmother used to say.
Okay. Okay.
Follow the money.
Okay. Well,
Who that
yeah.
one's yeah.
Yeah.
Who benefits from you absorbing that information? Follow the money. And so when, like you said, Desmond, you don't want to call it what Trump's been calling it. And the reason I said it was this big, beautiful bill using his words is because
Yeah.
to them, it sure is. And
Right.
follow the money, right? And somebody just asked me, Abstract says, I apologize to interrupt. That's okay. That's why we're doing this. How did you spell her last name? Her last name is Batten, Tracy Batten. She's an excellent activist in the Pittsburgh region, Baton. Look her up on Facebook and on Instagram, and you will be able to plug into she organizes a ton of um, different rallies, etc. here in the city. She's amazing.
The last thing I wanted to say about this, Natalie, before we go to the next topic here, um, the reason why I was so upset about this whole framing behind the big beautiful
Sure.
bill, it seems like really small potatoes in comparison to everything else that we're talking about, but it kind of comes back to the same thing that we talk about over and over again, where Republicans seem to always know how to dominate these conversations in like the political narrative space. Like they know how to
Yeah.
frame the things they want to frame. They know how to
Right.
attack the things that the left is doing. And it feels too often like we're always playing on the defensive. Like we are
Yeah.
always essentially like they set the terms of the game and then we just play the game the way they want us to play the game. And I just think that there are little things along the way that need to be addressed directly. Like don't allow his bill's name to be called this big like that's what he wants it to be called. So don't
No.
call it that.
Right.
You know, like every time that they see something out there that they don't like, they put a name to it and they just say it over and over and over and over and over again. It's again, talk about something really small here, but I think
No, it's not small at all.
we do him credit by continuing to say the name of the bill that he wants the bill to be called
Yes.
when what it actually is anything but beautiful or whatever the hell he wants it to be called. Like
It's
this
reverse
is
Robin Hood.
he is going to destroy people's lives with this thing and he wants to
100%.
frame it in a way that feels positive so that when it gets circulated through every news cycle or every newspaper in this country, every news organization in this country, that's what the title will be: Trump's big beautiful bill. And so far, even my local company here, K-Pax here in Missoula, that's what they're running it as. And I'm just like, what are we doing? Like
No,
what are we doing right
I
now?
feel that. And, I'm glad that you said that. I actually did a video today. I do a video series for Penn Capital Star, which is a nonprofit newsroom in Harrisburg. And I do this video called Week in Focus. And of course, all 10 of the all 10 of the House Republicans voted from Pennsylvania in favor of this. So I wanted to point that out.
Yeah.
And I quoted something that Trump said in the narrative, and my editor said, take that out. I don't want to amplify what he actually said. And I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, like you're right. We don't need to repeat this. I was thinking in my mind, like, I want people to hear what he said because was awful. But to your point, and I'm glad that my editor said that to me, that's the bonus of sometimes having an editor is you get to bounce something off of somebody.
Yeah.
Um, And I was like, yeah, you're right. I don't want to say that. That's not necessary to get the point across that this is horrendous. I don't need to share the tweet that he put out there on Truth Social. And it was just one of those moments where the mainstream media could learn a lot from these smaller organizations because they get it. So there is something to be said about that. So shout out to Tim.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Tim. All right. On that note, these next two topics kind of go hand in hand, but we're going
Yeah.
to start by discussing the first one from NPR. Diseases are spreading and the CDC isn't warning the public like it was months ago. I'm a huge public health person. I really care. I really do care about your health. I care about my health, and I care about how our society functions or doesn't function based on the health of its people. And we are not okay. Like, none of us. Like, people are not well. Um, and so this is what has been stated in NPR today. It says to accomplish its mission of increasing the health security of the United States, the CDC states that it conducts critical science and provides health information to protect the nation. But since President Trump's administration assumed power in January, many of the platforms the CDC uses to communicate have gone silent. And this is true because I check the CDC website all the time for various things that I'm interested in, and nothing is being updated. Many of the CDC's newsletters are stopped. I haven't received any. Workers at the CDC have said this. Health alerts about disease outbreaks previously sent to health professionals subscribed to the CDC's Health Alert News Network, haven't been dispatched since March. The agency's main social media channels have come under new ownership of the Department of Health and Human Services. Yikes. Emails reviewed by the NPR show this, and most have gone more than a month without posting original content. This, to me, is so disgusting. And I don't ever want to hear anybody talk about RFK making America healthy again, that whole Mayha
Right.
movement or whatever. All they have done since assuming power is strip the American people of health knowledge and have reduced our chances of being able to prepare for another pandemic, which is right around the corner. Actually, two, I believe, are right around the corner. The fact that we've had measles outbreaks and there's been no real communication around that. The fact that we go in and out of these COVID waves, they're not seasonal, they're happening all the time. I think we need to be bracing for another one that's coming around the corner here in June because a new Omicron variant has kicked up, and we do not have a vaccine ready for it.
Yeah.
There is just so much to unpack with all of this. But the real thing I wanted to touch on is, because the news cycles have moved so fast, we've kind of moved away from this topic collectively. So I was really happy that NPR posted something about this, because this is like we are going around with blinders on, bumping into walls as it pertains to public health. And I have talked to so many scientists and so many people in public health over the last few months. A lot of them are losing their jobs. A lot of them are being redirected. They're not allowed to work on the things that they used to work on.
Yeah.
It's impacting every single aspect of public health, and people are getting sicker because of it. And now we're going to be cutting Medicaid and Medicare and SNAP. What do you think that's going to do, guys? What do you think that's going to do? We're flying blind, and now we're not even going to have any tools to protect ourselves. This, to me, is the epitome of madness. This is eugenics, and no one can convince me otherwise. We are trying to cull the herd here. We really are. And I'll explain more when we get into the COVID conversation of what I mean about that. But there is no public health, there's no way that this could be a public health strategy other than a strategy to harm and to kill. That's the strategy.
I know that a lot of people took a lot of stock in RFK when he was like appointed as, you know, uh, the head of Health and Human Services. But I think the thing that's really deflating for me is the conflation between understanding that there might be a problem in society and then what you do to try to address it. So RFK was coming, out, making some popularity for himself by challenging the fact that there might be some issues with how we go about addressing disease in this country, how we go about addressing health in this country. And I think to a degree, there is some truth behind that in the abstract, in the absolute abstract. When we talk about how maybe we as a country, we don't actually prioritize wellness as much as we do just addressing sickness. Once people are sick, then we go to the doctor and we get care versus thinking about how can we prevent that from happening in the first place by living a more healthy lifestyle. I
Mm-hmm.
think there is some merit to that. But the problem is that people will say something like that. And then when they actually get into a position of power, what they end up doing is just finding different ways to not really address that point whatsoever, but trying to find ways to take the existing things that are keeping people safe and cutting them in every way imaginable. That's what we've been seeing from RFK since he's taken this position as a director of health and human services. And I just do not see how anyone could see what he's doing and think to themselves, this is actually a good thing right now, other than the fact that we had right wing propaganda spewing a lot of misinformation, disinformation about vaccines, about the CDC, because of the fact of the COVID pandemic. And so now people don't really think that the CDC is anything other than just like a vaccine pusher. And they've been seeing a bunch of misinformation and conspiracy theories about vaccines. And so now I think all of this is just a direct result of, unfortunately, what I like to call the information war,
Yeah.
where we are in the middle right now of being in a time where truth is less relevant than it used to be. And what's more important, unfortunately, is just how often and how many people you have out there saying a certain narrative. And so we have too many people right now in this right wing political sphere essentially demonizing everything around the world of science. And these are the repercussions of it, Natalie. These are the repercussions of all of these lies going unchecked for so long, right? Because now you have somebody in power who wants to do nothing other than to strip the protections away from people that have been in place for so long.
And we're really seeing the tangible effects of that. And this is from PBS. The FDA will no longer recommend annual COVID vaccinations for healthy people younger than the age of 65. That means children too. Adults over the age of 65 and anyone over 6 months with one or more chronic or underlying health conditions like asthma, cancer, diabetes, pregnancy are going to be recommended to get a shot. To gain approval, pharmaceutical companies will need to conduct new randomized clinical trials for younger healthy populations, according to the FDA commissioner. This guy is an anti-vaxxer. His name is Martin Makary. He is he's a snake oil salesman. The shift was a marked departure from a previous guidance, which recommended annual COVID vaccines for everyone 6 months and older. They're basically saying at least 100 people will not be able to get, we have 360 some million people in this country.
Right.
Under this, they're saying about 100 to 200 will be eligible. So that means 100 to 200 will not be, right? What is our definition of a healthy younger person? Because there is so much literature that we know from exhaustive research from the last 5 years that says anyone can become unhealthy once they contract COVID because of the damage that it does to our vascular system and our organ systems. This is not up for debate. So the fact remains that me as a healthy person, I would benefit from the shot if it could help prevent severe disease, hospitalization, or death. They're also now finding that the more of these boosters that you've had or vaccines that you've had, your chances of getting long COVID are decreasing. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So none of this stuff is foolproof, of course, but there is no harm in allowing people to get this vaccine. So why are we restricting people from getting this vaccine? We are not mandating it, but what now they're going to be doing is mandating that I and you or whomever they deem as healthy, whatever that means, cannot get it. To me, this feels like eugenics, because what I think they're trying to do here is if you get COVID and you become disabled, they don't want to have to pay for you. They don't want to have to deal with your Medicaid. All of this happening at the same time is by design. They are culling the herd. They want the weak, the unproductive, the disabled to die. That is what they want. They don't want them on the payroll. I don't mean to sound so callous about it, but I'm so frustrated. After 5 years, I've been COVID conscious. I mask wherever I go. I care about people. I've had countless people on my radio show, doctors, scientists. I had a scientist who worked on the original bats in the laboratory that started the original vaccine for COVID. She worked on that. Like, these are not paid spokespersons that are out to like get you this jab so you become sick from this COVID vaccine and they can, you know what, like the government can track you. It's like, we have phones for that, guys. It's like this vaccine saved millions and millions of lives. And as a person who has always believed in science and has always trusted the scientific method, I am all for us working on better vaccines, more a sterilizing vaccine, which they've actually been working on. They're trialing it right now in mice. They did a nasal vaccine on mice and it's been working. But all of that is now at a standstill because they've cut the NIH grants. They've cut the money. So we're going to lose all of the advancements that we're trying to push us forward. And I guess I just keep going back to this idea that this falls back in line with this neo-Nazi white Christian fundamentalist, bullshit of trying to conform this country into looking like we're healthy, into looking like we're homogenous, into looking like one thing, when that has never been the case. Disabled people have always existed. Okay. Healthy people have always existed, but health is not a continual space. It's a place you are for a time in your life. And sometimes you're not healthy. So what does that mean? What are they setting us up for here? Like, I am at such a loss and I feel so angry. And I know so many people with long COVID. I lost my uncle to COVID just a few months ago. Like, this disease is very much present with us. And I think this country sucks at collective grief, and we are in a state of denial, and we have been. We just want things to go back to normal, which they never will be again. And we don't want to look in the mirror and work towards a better future. And to me, this is the complete result of that. A lot of people, Desmond, are going to be directly hurt by this and all the cuts to Medicaid, Medicare. All of this, to me, goes together like hand in hand.
Doesn't make any sense to me why you would deny someone the ability to get a shot that they want.
Mm-mm.
We allow just about anybody to get a flu shot that they want, that who wants one. Anyone who wants one. You want one, you have one. If the vaccine was dangerous for quote unquote healthy people, and that was your reasoning for not allowing these healthy people to take the vaccine, where is the information and the evidence proving that it has become unsafe? Isn't that normally the modus operandi here? Like, you provide information saying this is why you can't have this. This is why we are restricting it. It's usually that simple. Here's the evidence. Here it is. Now this is the reason why we have brought down this decision. But yet we don't have that. Just a decision that's based on what feels like a culture war narrative, which is people were upset about the existence of these vaccines. Funny enough, Trump is not one of those people, as he went around constantly talking about how big of a breakthrough this was because it happened under his administration.
That's right.
He loved bragging about Project Warp Speed and how he was vaccinated. Right. Yep. So it's funny how that all kind of went silent once he realized how unpopular it was amongst his base. But the one time I think I've seen Trump get bucked by his base, maybe the only time, truthfully speaking. So that is the thing that keeps popping up for me about this one in particular when you brought this story to my attention. It's like, if there was proof that there was something dangerous about this, why didn't you present it? And if you have nothing to present, how do you have the ability to sit here and tell people that they cannot have it? How? It does not make any sense. I mean, if there is a medicine available and people want to take it and you have no good reason to withhold it from them, then why are you withholding it from them? And the only conclusion I can come to is that this is a culture war decision based upon an ability to have a talking point out in the political hemisphere for everyone so that you can go back and say, look what we did. We did this thing. Aren't you so happy about that? And so it's not rooted in science.
No,
Again, I keep using this phrase a lot the last few days when we've been having these conversations, but these people are just unserious, Natalie.
I know.
You know, I mean, at the end of the day, it's not that hard to provide proof of your accusation. And if you don't have it, don't make the accusation. Just keep it
That's
that
right.
simple.
Yeah, and I agree with everything you said. And I just wish we would get back to a place where we would trust people who have dedicated their whole lives to something. And I think the thing that bothered me about this too was science is a practice, right? And you learn things and then you change, and then you learn things and then you adapt, and then you learn things and you do them or you don't moving forward. So this idea that they're trying to suggest like you can't trust science because it changes, that's what it's supposed to do, right? I remember working in a
That is what it's
lab,
supposed to do.
and I was working on, we were working on cell cycles, and I was using these little like jelly things, and you see the DNA, it'll move through the jelly thing, and we were trying to figure out a sequence. And I must have ran this experiment, I'm not kidding, in the semester maybe 600 times. And Dr. Schwaka, I remember him saying to me, well, we know 600 ways it didn't work. And it was just like, it was, anytime I fail at something, I always
Yeah.
think of him saying that. And I say that to myself, well, I just learned another way it didn't work. And that's what
Yeah.
science is. That's what this method is about. It's trial and error, seeing what works, building and building and building and building. So the fact that we were able to fast track a vaccine that saved millions of people's lives should have been celebrated and built upon, because it's not a perfect vaccine and we could improve upon it. And it should be improved upon until we get to the point where it sterilizes this and neutralizes this disease. And so fewer and fewer and fewer people can contract it and therefore not spread it, right? But instead, we've allowed the worst virus of all, which is misinformation, to spread like wildfire. And it breaks my heart, because when you see parents go on television who have just lost their child to measles, who did not vaccinate their child to measles, and say on camera, and I wouldn't vaccinate them again, they're in a better place, because of how deep this has rooted in their being, in their psyche. We have a problem, America. This is a problem. And
Yeah.
nobody wants to see the iron lung come back. No one wants to see children go blind from the measles. These are all very preventable things. We want our children to be able to enjoy their lives and run free. They can't do that if they have long COVID when they're 7 years old. And all of this is preventable. And it breaks my heart. So I appreciate the space to talk about it, not just from a journalistic perspective or a science perspective, but really just from like the human spirit, the condition of being human. Like, we need to do better for each other. I care about you and I want you to care about me. And that's the only way we get through this world. If not, we're forced to look at where we're at, which is all one, every man and woman and child for themselves. I don't want to live in a society like that. And that's not a functioning, healthy society.
You always have space to talk about the things that are important to you here, Natalie. Just, I think in
Mm-hmm.
the future, we will do so from a more well lit environment. We're going to
Guys,
get Natalie a new ring
guys, I
light.
need a new light. Desmond, are you
Okay.
telling me I don't look good? Just be honest. Damn
I
it.
you were in a dark place, Natalie. We're gonna fix it though. We're gonna
We're
fix
gonna
it.
fix. I've been
Yeah,
trying to click it the whole time we've been here, but
it's over. It's
it's
over.
over, guys. It's over. So
So I
that'll
do
be
want
on
to
my
say
list
though,
of things to do tomorrow.
we had a few different issues today trying to
Yeah.
do this show three different times, but I think that one way or another we were going to get this done. I'm glad that we did, because these were five important topics that we had to cover
Yeah.
today. And I also want to mention that for those who were not here earlier in the week, we actually did four topics a few days ago. We covered Trump considering a reality TV show for immigrants to win their citizenship.
Oh, man.
Fun times. We talked about the Department of Justice charging Congresswoman LaMonica McIver for assault of an ICE agent. So definitely had some important things to say there. We both did. The Senate passing No Tax on Tips Act. There's more to that than you might imagine there being. And then also, I think the last thing we talked about was a black woman in Georgia who is now pronounced brain dead, being forced to carry a child to term because of the abortion ban in the state of Georgia. So all those topics were on our previous video. If you're watching this on Substack right now, both of us have posts from that conversation. You'll be able to see that on our particular newsletters. If you're watching this on the playback on YouTube or Spotify, those videos will be the previous videos on my channel. So you can go check those out there as well. Natalie, thank you so much. And I am hoping to see you again next week.
More clearly.
At least once. But, you know, I'm going to talk her into twice. We will kind of see how the week turns out. There's so many things to talk about. You know, so
oh my God,
there's no shortage of topics. I mean, Natalie, when I was thinking about what we're going to talk about today, I had a list of like 15 things.
I know.
It's just there is not enough time to talk about them all, and I always feel guilty about that. I really do. I feel like I'm leaving things on the table that are important that people should hear about, and it's hard to be like, what are we going to focus on today? Because there's just only so many things you can talk about. We can't sit up here for 4 hours. I mean, I'm not Hassan Piker. I cannot do what he does. I'm not sure if you know who he is, but he is a political streamer on Twitch and on YouTube. This man streams for 8 to 10 hours a day, like 5 days a week. I don't have that stamina. I do not. Maybe I need to get on a bike.
But that's insane.
It's a lot.
He's going to burn out. It is a
I'm
marathon,
surprised
not
he
a
hasn't
sprint.
Already. But yeah. Anyway.
No, this was great. I appreciate everybody that tuned in to watch us live. The conversations that we're having are really important because, you know, the world it can be a very daunting place to be in right now, but being in community is the anecdote. And this is a community. So we appreciate you guys tuning in and being a part of this and for following our work. And we appreciate all the questions and the comments. And I look forward to being with Desmond again in the very near future, hopefully next week. And we'll be back with more to share. So if you haven't given us a follow or subscribed, please check us out. And I'm also on Instagram at Natalie Bencivenga and on TikTok. And Desmond, where can people find you?
Instagram, TikTok, here on Substack, here on YouTube, depending on where you're watching this at right now. If you're watching this on YouTube, please go ahead and give this video a like. If you're on Substack right now, you can click on the top of the screen and you can subscribe to both of our newsletters. We will see you next week.
Sounds good. Hopefully with better lighting.
Yeah.
I got the memo. Thanks.
I will send you a good link. Okay.
Bye, you guys.